Hello traders, welcome to the Weekly Outlook and Setups volume 249. Iliya here. You know what we're going to be doing, having a look at the markets, how they developed this week, what kind of opportunities we had, and most importantly, what we can expect for the upcoming week. Now, this week was quite volatile. We had some very interesting moves. We had a midweek reversal as well. I only took one trade, profitable trade on Aussie dollar, and then pretty much stepped a little bit on the sidelines because we had Thursday, which was super choppy, and then Friday kind of was a little bit 50-50. So right now we are entering pretty much within the last weeks of July, which I do believe are going to be very volatile. So of course, let's have a look at the market. Let's see where it guides us. But first, we're going to start with the economic calendar. All right, so here we are at the economic calendar. Now, what makes an immediate impression on me is that on Monday, we don't have any news, which is great. And then on Tuesday, we have a couple of orange impact news, like, is it going to be very volatile? Very probably not. And then you can see on Wednesday, we are having the PMIs. So PMI for the Euro, right? So French, German, then Eurozone, they usually have them. GBP, Canadian interest rate decisions. So for the cat traders, watch out. And then of course, we have the US PMIs, which are going to be probably the most important ones. And new home sales. So Wednesday is going to be potentially when the volatility is going to start kicking. So Wednesday is tradable. However, you have to be a little bit aware because sometimes news are a little bit 50-50. If you enter a trade before them, then of course the news can either massively smash your stop loss for a slippage, or they can massively hit your take profit as well. So usually it's always best to trade after the news. But of course, for news like this, PMIs, for example, you can definitely strike before that. And then after Wednesday is over, I think on Thursday is when we're actually going to start creating that massive weekly move because we also have here GDP, we have unemployment claims, and we have a lot of USD news here on Thursday, which is going to be very interesting. And then on Friday, we have the PCE price index, which is also a very important news release. So for me, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, absolute focus. That is very likely when the moves are going to occur. So I'm very likely going to update you on Tuesday or even early Wednesday with how the market is looking like. So very nice week ahead of us. Let's jump into the technicals. All right, here we are back with the DXY. So what we're having so far is a very nicely printing bearish monthly candle. And of course, my overall then drawn liquidity is currently right here on the monthly. Transferring this onto the weekly time frame, what are we having right now is something extremely interesting. Is we're having that weekly imbalance, and at the same time the market has taken this very massive weekly liquidity here as well. I'm, by the way, on my MacBook right now because I'm not at home and I'm super clumsy with it. So after we're taking weekly liquidity, I usually expect for the market to rebalance something on the same time frame. And of course, you can see we're sweeping this weekly low, that weekly low as well. And we're printing a very nice bullish weekly candle, which potentially can guide us very nicely into that weekly bearish imbalance. So to me, overall, in terms of the macro time frame, this will be a very likely outcome. This is what I will be looking for going into next week. So then, of course, transferring onto the daily time frame, you can see that on the daily, like Monday and Tuesday were pretty sketchy. Then on Wednesday, we reached that drawn liquidity. And then on Thursday, we invalidated a new potential daily bearish imbalance after this expansion candle. Then the market just massively pulled back and did not make a new daily bearish imbalance. And on Friday, we continued pushing higher, which once again, to me, it really makes sense for the market to be reaching out for this high, which is pretty much the weekly imbalance open. So right now, if we do get something on the hourly time frame to potentially guide us there, it could be a nice counter trend trade. However, you can see that on Friday, it was pretty choppy. The last thing we had was here, which was that hourly imbalance. This one got tapped and we started kind of to continue going higher, but didn't really make anything much on Friday. We had that power outage within a lot of sectors in the world. So maybe even the algorithms within the market or the BFIs also stopped working. So that is the DXY. Again, this week I'm having more of a macro bias. So are you going to be able to be taking longs into that weekly zone? Potentially Monday and Tuesday, if you get some sort of a POI, some sort of a contextual zone to enter long from, and then to go into the weekly, then great. But then from the weekly, I'm going to be looking for 4 hourly shifts going lower to potentially then guide me towards this low. So I'm having an overall bearish bias on the DXY. I do not exclude the opposite side as well, but this is what I'm going to be looking for right now. So let's see how the rest of the pairs also look like. All right, having a look at Euro USD. Now, once again, here I am having an overall drawn liquidity in the form of this monthly swing point. And then, of course, after this, we have that high. After this, we have that high. But of course, let's take it step by step. Then, of course, how are we going to get there? Well, potentially buy something on the weekly. And what I also really like about EU this week is that it's also having a bullish weekly imbalance. All right, that is something that I'm going to be looking to get tapped next week and then to potentially start guiding me higher. Now, what I really don't like is how the market actually swept that weekly high. I would have loved to maybe have a little bit of a body close, a little bit of an indication that this is not really a sweep, because right now we're having a very bearish signal. But again, overall, I think this is very nice because it also overall aligns with this overall, you can call this a very massive sell to buy, a very massive order block, a very nice like range as well. But I really do like how it aligns on the bodies here. So this weekly imbalance to me is a very powerful area. And if the market is not going to continue from that weekly zone, we of course have one below. But if it breaks this weekly zone and it comes all the way lower, I would even expect for the market to pretty much reverse. All right, so what I'm going to be looking for is pretty much a tap of that weekly imbalance and then a continuation higher, very similar to the DXY. Now, of course, then dropping onto the daily time frame, we are almost there. So again, potentially Monday and Tuesday can get us into that weekly imbalance. And then, of course, as you know, Wednesday onwards, potentially continuing to push higher. Now, again, don't marry this kind of outlook because the market can just very easily blast through that weekly zone after taking out this as a sweep and then just create bearishness, all right? Just because right now I'm bullish on the euro and bearish on the DXY does not mean I'm going to actually do that for the rest of the week. But overall, like, yeah, you can see this is a pure liquidation, a massive push up and then a massive push down. So this is a very nice V shape here, a very nice reversal pattern. So let's see how this weekly zone is actually going to hold. Now, when it comes to the hourly time frame, we did have a very extremely tiny imbalance here. I'm not even going to draw it. So I think it's going to be very easy for the market to reach into that weekly zone. I don't think it makes a lot of sense for the market to right now be pulling back. All right. So for example, here we have a nice hourly imbalance. If the market does pull back towards here and then starts giving us bearish order flow, that could be a potential scenario. Okay. But to me, the very likely scenario is for us to tap into that weekly zone and then start giving us the shifts to potentially go higher. So this is my EU outlook right now. A very important weekly zone. Like, keep in mind, it could even take 2 weeks for the market to reverse from a weekly zone. As you're going to see right now with Aussie dollar, as I'm going to show you in a bit, it tapped into the weekly zone within 1 weekly candle, but it did not reverse. So again, be patient and really wait for the market to pretty much tap this zone, consolidate, and then start showing you the bullish signs, because your best trades are going to happen when that order flow is already established. Okay, so don't rush. But pretty much 2 situations on EU, either trading into that weekly zone or trading away from that weekly zone going long. So let's see how it goes. Next on the list is GBP USD, also very nice monthly candle. Now here we have a very important detail, is that we are taking out a monthly liquidity zone. That is a very powerful monthly swing high. Now when we're taking a monthly swing high like this, we can usually expect like a monthly rebalance, a monthly pullback, or weekly. And on the weekly we're having it, which is very, very, very nice. This is why this week I pretty much avoided looking at GU and I avoided going long on GU, because I was aware that we're taking that massive monthly liquidity. And then of course, after that massive monthly liquidity is taken, usually the market will pull back on the monthly or on the weekly. Now here we have this very nice zone. We have this very nice overall OB as well here to the left, right? So this to me is also looking like aligning with, as with everything else, a nice pullback and a continuation higher will be the textbook scenario. However, once again, you really have to observe whether this is actually going to turn into a break, because it looks like a sweep. On EU, it also looks like a sweep. And on GU right now, you can see we're taking out that monthly high. And right now, we're immediately starting to retrace back in. So I am definitely bearish on the DXY and of course bullish on everything else right now, but we really have to be waiting for those clear signs. Now this one is giving me here a problem, no real time. So is this really the full Friday for GU? I'm really not sure. So let me just very quickly double check it with, so this is forex.com, FXCM. Yeah, okay. So let me do it here real quick. So of course we have that weekly imbalance, you know, and then we're having here on the daily time frame a supply and demand sandwich. What I mean by this is that you're having a weekly zone tapped while at the same time you're having daily bearish. So the market right now is stuck within that sandwich, but pretty much this one is already kind of into that weekly zone. So I really bet that this one is just gonna open the week and straight get into that weekly zone. As we get into that weekly zone, you have to be monitoring the 4-hourly time frame as well, because right now the 4-hourly time frame is also quite bearish, and this is not good. This is once again where you're getting into that transition area from like the lower time frames being overall bearish and then for them to potentially turn bullish. And what usually happens is the market's gonna tap 4-hourly zone, react, daily zone, react, and then after everything is taken, that is then the high probability move right here. Okay, so it could also be a patient week, but I think if we pretty much really start showing that bullishness on GU and pretty much the bearishness on the DXY, I think it could go pretty well. Personally, I always like to see that supply and demand sandwich fail. So if the market eventually ends up building bullish leg, I will be targeting this daily zone, then wait for the reaction from that daily zone. And then if this reaction from the daily zone is broken, then I think it's going to be an easy ride going higher. So looks pretty good for longs. I mean, the analysis for this week is pretty simple. And usually when it's very simple and evident, something opposite ends up happening or the market makes it a little bit tricky for us to enter. So again, stay patient, wait for Monday and Tuesday to develop, and then you know when it's the right time to strike. But overall also bullish bias on GBP USD. Next on the list is Aussie dollar. So what we're having here is once again that sweep of this high, which is definitely looking like a sweep so far, and that is a monthly zone. Okay, so when we're taking a monthly zone, usually we would like to see potentially a monthly or a weekly pullback, and you can see this one is already making that pullback this week pretty much. And again, you can see this week we're tapping into that weekly imbalance, but we had absolutely no reaction, which is very interesting. So an extremely bearish weekly candle that week on AU, sorry. So what I will be looking for right now is for the market to show me the bullishness and make a weekly imbalance invalidation. Okay, so I want to see for the next weekly candle to open and to push higher to close that potential bearish imbalance. That is going to be very key for me to see in order to definitely say that we could potentially go bullish. Now, the other problem is right here is that we're having a daily bearish imbalance as well. So that is going to cause the market a little bit of a problem and potentially stop it from pushing higher very fast. Weekly zone, again, you can see it got tapped here. It looked like it wanted to react, but then on Thursday, it just went lower and then it went even lower. I personally capitalized on Tuesday, driving us into that weekly zone. That was my target, okay? And then afterwards, I was just waiting for those bullish signs to kick in, but they just didn't kick in. So right now, again, if we are bullish, I would definitely wait for the market to tap this daily zone, react, break, and then from there, I'm going to try to go long. Right now, I think it's actually having a lot of bearish order flow. It's giving me a lot of bearish vibes right now. And even if you drop to the 4-hourly time frame, well, the 4-hourly time frame is not extremely clear because here you can see on Friday, it was extremely choppy. Like a very, very, very choppy day. No imbalances created, nothing really created. It just kept sliding from the move on Thursday. We're having that 4-hourly bearish imbalance, but that also aligns with the daily. So on Aussie dollar, I have no immediate setups on that one. I would just, this is my setup. I will be waiting for the market to potentially pull back into that daily zone, see what happens, and then if it actually shows me further bullish signs, that's when I'm gonna start going long pretty much on this leg here. And of course, if the market starts pulling back and maybe continuing bearish, I'm just gonna go short. Easy, right? That's Aussie dollar, not extremely clear, but this is the perfect outcome that I would like to see, taking into account, of course, if the DXY ends up going bearish, which is what is going to give that shift across the whole board. So let's see, but looking very clear, already into that weekly imbalance. All the rest of the USDs are also going to be getting into weekly imbalance. So we really have to observe whether that shift will truly happen. Now, NZUSD is quite a lot different than AU. This one is super bearish right now. It's printing a very nice bearish monthly candle. And on the weekly time frame, well, yeah, pretty much the bearish monthly candle just got printed this week with this very nice weekly bearish engulf. Now here we did have this weekly bullish imbalance, and you can see we had, for example, candle 1 coming in, candle 2 very nicely showing us the bullish sign, but then here the third week consolidated, and then this week we're just simply breaking it. So that is very strange, and actually what we're also doing is we are definitely breaking this low. We're not sweeping it, we're absolutely smashing it. So where is the market headed right now? Well, there is a very tiny weekly bullish imbalance right here. So that could be a potential draw on liquidity. Okay. And then of course, as we start making our way to the daily time frame, you can see that this one, NZD/USD, was super choppy on the daily. So I didn't touch this one. I'm currently really not looking to be trading NZD/USD. Right now we are pretty much pushing lower very fast on the daily. On Monday, we could potentially form a daily bearish imbalance if we do not touch this line, which is our daily invalidation line, okay? So if Monday pretty much makes a candle like that, then we're gonna have a daily imbalance, and then that daily imbalance could potentially guide us into that weekly. That is a bearish outlook, knowing what we're looking on the other pairs, right? So let's see, on the hourly time frame, we are very nicely bearish. We had, for example, this hourly zone, the market just tapped, ends up following through, and right now we're having this hourly zone. So the market is either going to continue from that hourly zone and continue pushing lower, or it's going to on Monday to potentially consolidate, print a daily zone, and then tap into the daily, and then maybe continue going lower. Now again, I'm just listening to what this market is telling me, which is telling me that it's quite bearish, right? On the other pairs, we saw that we are bullish. We have those weekly imbalances. This one already tapped into that weekly, failed to follow through. So right now it's potentially headed for that weekly imbalance, okay? But on the short term, it could be a little bit bearish. Personally, I would really prefer not to trade NZD/USD because there are pairs that look a lot better than it, that are a little bit more higher probability. But of course, if you're trading that pair on the short term, it's bearish. But if, of course, that DXY and if everything across the market starts shifting, this one could potentially also go bullish. So this is my setup on NZD/USD, which looks like an early setup, hourly tap, continuation, or Monday play out, daily tap, potential continuation lower. Let's see how it plays out. But once again, with everything that is pointing bullish on EU, GU, AU, I wouldn't really try to go bearish on NZD/USD, although it could actually go nice. So let's see. All right, let's have a look at Mr. Gold. So we are taking out all-time highs once again, and you can see we are kind of sweeping them so far, not really breaking them. And we are once again having that monthly bullish imbalance that could potentially get reached. So right now, if we're having a little bit of a crash across the market, could be very nice for a pullback. Now taking weekly zone, we are also at the same time having this very interesting weekly bullish imbalance, but it's way too low. Like, it's way too low. And this weekly candle is just a very massive rejection from all-time highs. So this gives me a bearish outlook on gold. Just again, listening to what the market is telling me. At the same time, did it actually form a weekly bullish imbalance here? Well, if this is another broker, probably it's not. Like, when you have tiny zones like that, usually it's not the best, because on another broker, very likely this is not even an imbalance. Okay. On the daily time frame, we're having this, once again, this very nice pattern of a V shape. Pretty much that is your sweep, that is your liquidity grab. Coming in, taking that monthly high, and then just coming out, right? And where is it potentially going right now? Well, it's going towards that weekly zone. Is this very tiny weekly imbalance going to make some sort of a difference? Well, if you have a look at Friday, it was an extreme drop, which then is going to result potentially in Monday this week creating another daily bearish imbalance like that. So of course, let's wait to see how Monday is going to play out. And then as we have that daily bearish imbalance, you're going to have two choices: to either trade from that or wait for it to fail. Now, of course, the question is, right, are we actually bullish right now on gold? Well, seeing how it's sweeping that monthly high, seeing how on the weekly candle printed, seeing how small that weekly bullish imbalance is, I would definitely be cautious and wait to see how that tiny imbalance is going to react. So again, wait for Monday to close, wait for that new daily imbalance to get formed, okay? And then of course, it's all about also waiting. I would even wait for Tuesday. I would even wait for Wednesday, because the more you wait, the more clarity you're gonna get about what could potentially happen. Right now, it's just absolutely useless to be throwing a potential forecast because we have absolutely no idea what is going to happen. Okay, but I'm just sharing with you my plan so that you can start thinking this way, right? When you're also in the live market, you shift that mindset and of course be open to all possibilities and not really say, okay, gold is going to that weekly zone. We don't know. Okay, so waiting for Monday to open, waiting for that daily bearish imbalance to get formed. You can definitely trade that going lower, or you can of course just observe, see how it's going to happen, because if we actually end up again shifting that bias across the board, then of course we could see that reversal as well. So gold, not 100%, it's giving us that very nice sweep. We really gotta wait. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? Are we going lower on gold, or are we going to be reversing right now, headed once again towards all-time highs? All right, let's have a look at some JPYs, starting from UJ. Well, we're having an overall bearish month printing so far, and then dropping onto the weekly time frame, we are actually having a weekly bearish imbalance. Now, will this weekly bearish imbalance potentially guide us to something lower? Definitely possible, right? So there was pretty much a comment that this is just a very quick pullback in order for the market to continue going higher. Definitely possible. However, right now, as I keep saying, if the DXY actually starts shifting that sentiment towards being bearish, well, USD JPY could potentially follow. Okay, so I was just on another broker here. So let's see. This to me, if the market is going to go bearish, this to me is a very likely target. So let's see how are we going to be getting there. Well, on the daily time frame, we already have, okay, so this one is getting very interesting. We already have this daily bearish imbalance that got tapped on Friday, and Friday already printed kind of an indecisive rejection. Two situations on this thing. Okay, we either continue going lower from that daily, or we fail the daily, pull back into the weekly, and then of course see what's going to happen from the weekly. Because again, if the daily fails, that means the weekly is being sought. Okay, that's it. As simple as that. So right now what you have to ensure is that you get an entry model from that daily zone. Now from that daily zone, what we had is here this hourly bullish imbalance to guide us there that got tapped. It's already taken. So right now, I really want to see 4 hourly, or you can even wait for 1 hourly imbalances and momentum and structure going lower. Because right now, it's absolute chop last Friday. So we really have to wait. And Monday being without news, I think Monday could also be very tricky. Maybe Monday could set out the weekly high. And then if we start reversing lower, that will be great. So just again, looking at what the market is telling me on UJ, I would say I am bearish. The question is, are we going to go lower from that daily zone, or are we going to push a little bit higher to tap into that weekly and then maybe start reversing from there? Okay, so watch out again. You have to wait for price to develop, and you have to wait for price to pretty much show you what it's going to do, because those are the two situations that you have to be mindful of. All right, let's check out Euro JPY. Now on the monthly time frame, once again, kind of a reversal retracement candle, again taking into account that on the monthly we have pushed up for how many months? For 5 months we have pushed up, even 6. Yeah, 6 months we've pushed up. So yeah, could be time for a potential pullback. Now on the weekly time frame, it is interesting because we are still inside that weekly bullish imbalance. We are also tapping on the left within that weekly OB, this very nice sell to buy as well. And you can see that this last weekly candle, it's not a very, very bearish weekly candle to potentially show us that it really wants to go lower. It's more like having actually a bigger wick on the downside, but it also has a wick on the upside. So I would even call it an indecisive candle. So not telling us a lot. Then we drop to the daily time frame and we see exactly the same thing that we have on the USD JPY. We're having that daily bearish imbalance, and we are currently tapping into a weekly bullish order block here to the left. And we're tapping still in that weekly bullish imbalance. We're reacting very strongly from that daily zone, and you can see the hourly time frame, however, is a little bit, yeah. So UJ, definitely, as I keep scanning it, it's not a very high probability trade. It is showing us some bearish signs. It doesn't have a weekly bearish imbalance. It's still quite bullish because right now it's tapping into that OB, still inside that weekly zone. So to me right now, what is important to observe and to potentially wait for is to wait for this daily imbalance to show us what it wants to do. Okay, so is it going to push price lower and start making hourly bearish and daily bearish? Then of course I'm gonna go short. But is it right now going to fail it, maybe react a little bit and break the reaction? Okay, then of course you can target this high, and then eventually this daily imbalance as well. So those are my two outcomes on Euro JPY, because again, I always work with potential scenarios, not like really saying, all right, that's gonna happen. No, every single day, jump into the market, what is it telling me, and then I just adapt, okay? But this is what I'm looking for EJ, and once again, EJ really depends on what UJ is gonna do, really depends on what Euro USD is going to do. So once again, be patient. This one has a lot of contradicting factors, right? Weekly bullish, daily right now bearish, 4-hourly time frame consolidation. So again, not the best pair to be trading, so wait. All right, having a look at GJ. Now, this one in 11 days is potentially about to form a monthly bullish imbalance, and I'm quite curious to see if this is actually going to get formed or will it actually get invalidated. So quite curious on that. On the weekly time frame, we are also having, like we had actually weekly imbalance here, but this week we're also tapping into this bullish weekly imbalance. So yeah, this one is also giving me overall bullish signs right now, similar to EJ. And then of course on the daily time frame, what we're having right now is a little bit of a supply and demand sandwich. So weekly being bullish and then daily being bearish. What is absolutely key in this case in order to determine what is going to happen is the 4-hourly time frame. Right now we are in this transition area where a higher time frame zone is getting tapped, but the lower time frames are still like within that old order flow. So you really have to wait for signs, okay? Personally, what I love to see is actually a very strong impulsive leg higher on the 4-hourly time frame, and then to potentially trade that into that next potential low-hanging fruit, which in that case is going to be this high, okay? But if we start getting bearishness, then if we do get bearishness, I will be looking for a sweep of the previous weekly low, okay? So if we get bearishness, sweep, but then after that sweep, I want it to be a sweep. And what are the characteristics of a sweep? Coming in and then immediately starting to come out and potentially print that bullish order flow, okay? And then of course the third scenario will be if we actually just break strongly below it with new imbalance and then to potentially continue going lower towards I don't know where, because on the weekly time frame, yeah, there is nowhere to go apart from that sell candle. That is the OB here. There is nowhere else to go. So if this GJ is going to go bullish, it should go bullish from this area, from that weekly imbalance. If this weekly imbalance doesn't cause price to push higher, then we might be potentially up for a bigger reversal, or we might be actually forming that monthly imbalance. So of course, let's see. Again, very key to wait to see what's going to happen. Personally, if I'm to go long, absolutely 100% waiting for a 4-hourly, very strong bullish imbalance, break of structure, and then to potentially to start trading it higher. That's GJ. All right, here we are with indices, starting with SPX. Now again, 11 days for a formation of a monthly bullish imbalance. So again, I think the market could consolidate right now or maybe go a little bit bearish. And then next month is going to be really interesting when we're actually going to be having that monthly bullish imbalance. Dropping onto the weekly time frame, we are right now, yes, tapping into that weekly bullish imbalance, but is it going to hold? Well, looking at how this weekly candle is going, doesn't look like it wants to hold, really. So if it doesn't hold, then of course the next target for me is going to be this weekly low. Dropping onto the daily time frame, like sure, we are just tapping into that weekly zone, but you can see the daily time frame is just very bearish. It's very bearish, giving us also that supply and demand situation. And then Friday's candle also super bearish. So a lot of bearish order flow is starting to kick in. So yes, we're tapping into a weekly bullish, but again, that does not mean the market is just going to shift. You can see on the 4-hourly time frame, there were actually quite a few nice trades. I had a couple of members taking some nice trades on NASDAQ. Here we have that bearish imbalance, taps in, goes, another daily 4-hourly bearish imbalance, taps in, goes again. So that's very nice. And currently, we're having even a 4-hourly bearish. So you can see like the lower time frames are super bearish. So if the market is going to go lower, it could go lower from this 4-hourly zone. Okay, if that 4-hourly zone fails, it's going to go to the daily. And then the daily again, is it going to push lower? Is it going to react and break for the bullishness? Those are all things you just have to wait. All right, you just have to wait. A lot of bearishness is kicking in. So is it just a really nice and sharp pullback right now in terms of percentage? Yeah, the 3% is definitely a nice little pullback. All right, let's see. Okay, for me, if I'm to go long, I would absolutely wait for this zone to fail and for this zone to fail as well in order to start getting long and then maybe target new all-time highs. But if that bearish order flow persists, then of course you can keep looking for shorts. But again, keep in mind that we have 11 days for that monthly bullish imbalance to form, which is what I think is going to be really interesting going into next month, having that monthly bullish imbalance. So I think we can have actually a short-term bearishness right now, because you can see pretty much currently that monthly imbalance open is at exactly what I pointed out to be a target. So maybe we can start gravitating towards that, and then next month we can just tap and then potentially go. Okay, so yeah, could be some short-term bearishness. Let me know what you think about SPX. Let's have a look at Nasdaq. All right, Nasdaq, similar situation. In fact, a lot more bearish. We have been seeing tech stocks start to drop, while there are other stocks. For example, you can see within the Dow index here, we're actually starting to have a very nice pop higher. I see a lot of tech stocks are starting to drop. I see a lot of other kind of stocks like real estate or like Procter & Gamble type of stocks, right? They're starting to really rocket right now. So are we going to have a monthly bullish imbalance on Nasdaq? Well, we have 11 days to find out. I had a Fanatic member who actually thinks that we can be filling that monthly bullish imbalance, so technically invalidating it. So very interesting to see how that's going to happen. Now here we're having a very easy target in terms of that weekly low, and we're pretty much there. And we are right now printing a very nice expansion candle on the weekly, which could eventually result in a weekly bearish imbalance into the week after the incoming week. Okay, so very bearish. And then of course we drop to the daily time frame. What we have on the daily here is just this daily bearish imbalance, which the market is right now running away from. So we're having a runaway gap. The market just runaways from it. We're going to be taking that weekly liquidity. When we take weekly liquidity, we usually expect a daily or a weekly rebalance, but we're not going to have a weekly rebalance all the way until next week. Okay, because right now this week is going to open, it's going to do whatever it wants to do, and then potentially into the next week we're going to have that weekly bearish imbalance that could potentially then guide us into the monthly bullish. So that is my plan. So currently, of course, what is the action plan for now? Well, I think the shorts were already pretty nice right now, as we're getting extremely close to that weekly zone. Probably on a real chart, like a futures chart, it's probably already taken, but again, who knows? Something like this could be nice, but if we of course first take out that weekly swing point, I would start getting really careful, because we could start expecting pullbacks. Okay, so yeah, just honestly, I'm not extremely interested in the indices right now because they're dropping, but of course they can stop anytime and just start turning. So I am simply waiting, simply observing. I'm actually going to start buying some stocks as well, especially some of the tech stocks that I hold. So let's see, daily zone, hourly zone. Let's see how it's going to work out. Weekly, drawn liquidity here. As this one gets taken, then of course we have to just wait and observe. Are we going to have a very nice daily candle close to potentially show us that the market wants to go lower? New daily bearish imbalances getting created. Then that is, of course, going to show us bearishness. But if we start, for example, sweeping this and printing bullish, then I can start targeting that daily zone. Okay, so there is no specific setup. We have to wait. US30 is quite interesting. We rocketed all of a sudden, but right now, once again, it starts to look like a potential sweep because we had that very nice in. And right now, that weekly candle is rejecting very violently. But what we have here is a very nice weekly bullish imbalance. So let's see. I do think this could be a potential nice drawn liquidity about where the market is going right now. And yeah, you can see already the daily time frame is starting to give us some bearish imbalances, and then on the hourly time frame we are already like, yeah, hourly bearish pullback. And do we have anything new? Not here. It's all the way up there. So yeah, not ideal. We're having those runaway gaps when the market is just running away from them and not really pulling back. So yeah, let's see if we do get some sort of a POI to guide us into that weekly zone. I think it could get interesting, but as soon as we tap into that weekly zone, then I think we just have to step aside and wait to see what is going to happen. Okay, because as we tap that weekly zone, we're going to be having a lot of bearish imbalances. So there is very likely on Monday, we're very likely also going to form another daily bearish imbalance. And then the thing is, we have to wait for all of those to fail, right, until you pretty much get to the high. Okay, but very interesting, a lot of volatility. I think it could be associated with Trump and with the recent developments with Trump as well, potentially being elected, and the market is immediately getting volatile, which is of course nice for traders. But on US 30, not really having a bias, just the drawn liquidity for me is that weekly zone. If you can trade into that weekly zone, that's great. But as soon as that weekly zone is tapped, you really have to step aside and evaluate what is going to happen next. All right, going back full circle, just to recap, we are having that very key weekly bearish imbalance on the DXY. That is going to determine what is going to pretty much happen across the board, because pretty much the whole board has that weekly imbalance that we really have to see whether it's going to hold. Like EU has it, DXY has it, GU has it as well. So if you can trade into that weekly imbalance, that is going to be great. But personally, I will be waiting for Monday and Tuesday to pretty much maybe tap into that weekly imbalance, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to potentially trade away from it if we do get that confirmation. Okay, Aussie dollar and NZD dollar are a little bit more bearish than they should be, so my main attention will go on to EU and GU. Okay, gold is also very interesting. Again, my analysis is on the FXCM pairs. Very interesting because we're having a very nice sweep of all-time highs. We're also having a weekly bullish imbalance here on gold. So let's see how it's going to form. And then, of course, the JPYs, USD JPY is giving us a lot of bearish signs. So you really have to wait to see how that one is going to form, because it has a daily bearish and a weekly bearish. So which one is going to hold? That's what you have to wait for. EU, EJ, and GJ, they look the same as well. So you really have to be monitoring USD JPY for them and to see how that daily imbalance on all of those pairs is actually going to hold. At indices, they are in some sort of a pullback right now, some sort of a correction. So for how long this one is going to go, we of course never know. But pretty much we are right now in the creation of a monthly imbalance on NASDAQ and on SPX. On US 30, not really. Okay, so it's going to be very interesting to see a bearish finish of the month to make that monthly bullish imbalance, and then potentially next month could be interesting for a potential push up. Okay, so that's the outlook pretty much. Nothing immediate. I'm going to be waiting for Monday, Tuesday to play out, and then looking to join the market. Let me know how you performed this week. Let me know what is your favorite setup for the incoming week, and I'm gonna be updating you on Tuesday or Wednesday.